Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. And in this game, we get to watch two very high-level players use every trick in the book to win. Let's go. Alright, at the bottom here, we have Prince Baji, also known as Woot. He's playing as a marksman specialist, and he's up against Arthur MC, playing as a farseer specialist. Woot was the first Grandmaster of the Mechabellum history in Season 1. He is known to play very aggressively on asymmetrical aggro. And Arthur, I don't know too much about him. I played him a few times. He seems to have a pretty dynamic style. But in this game, they're both going to be playing asym aggro, but on the opposite sides. Now, normally when you see asym aggro, it tends to favor the player with slightly faster units. So the way that it works is the unit would just go straight down, get tower, and because you have the faster units, you're also going to be moving to the other side and hopefully get a good engagement with the tower debuff, either with this tower or the second tower. Alright, we'll start it with the Sabertooth starting pack. It is very popular these days. They're very difficult to deal with because all you need is to get arc lights and you essentially win, right? And if you go into a headbutt, even into Tarantula startups, is very difficult because Sabertooth obviously can just disable Tarantulas very easily. But in the later rounds, because the arc lights themselves also carry the EM technology, you can just disable your opponents, so you still win. So it's a very potent startup position. Arthur started with the steel balls crawlers and added the arc lights. Round 2, Underground Threat gets instantly picked, and I wouldn't be surprised that this is also going to be the choice for Arthur. Whenever you're playing aggro, your back line is completely open, so with the Underground, even just having the threat of having Underground is going to cost your opponent a lot of grief, because he can do one of few things. He can upgrade a tower, which means the Underground Threat is still going to have an effect, might just be a bit later. He can try to actively defend it with some chaff clear, which means these chaff clear will be away from the army and probably going to get picked up. Or he can defend with actual chaff units. So in this case, he's going to do a chaff defense with a arc light, a tower upgrade, because he's already running into this tower, so that makes sense. On the other side, Arthur is going to put down a single squad of trawlers as a small defense. A preliminary defense is not going to be enough to contest this entire squad of underground crawlers, but if they're going to be splitting 50-50, then I think this has a chance. And then he's also going to use his own underground defensively, expecting some sort of underground happening either in the center or on the side. Alright, let's talk about the decision making here in this sort of polar opposite sides of the board. When I play into this kind of games, one thing I really like to do, it just depends on my opponent's composition, is I like to drop oil and I like to put Stormcallers just sort of along the edge here as a transition. Once I start building Stormcallers, it becomes an anchor unit that allows me to then layer chaff and chaff clear, because if my opponent wants to push into my side, they'll have to suffer through at least 2 turns of oil and also Stormcaller. And by turn 3, I should have a pretty sizable defense on that side. In Woot's case though, he's actually trying to just push further on the side, on the asym aggro side, so ignoring whatever's happening on the other side. So far this seems to be working okay, but of course with the lock-on from the steel ball, this is going to be a round to Arthur. Instant pick on the Fire Badgers. Alright. So let's talk about a Fire Badger. Ooh, with Napalm. Okay. Alright, it seems like Woot's plan is to just continue to build on the strong side and then use as few resources on the weak side to cause as much damage as possible. So the napalm is a good choice if Arthur decided to just chaff up with more crawlers, maybe forming a crawler wave or even having crawlers down the side. Napalm is going to stop most of them very cost effectively. And that just means when these two armies finally clash right here in the center, Wood's going to have a bigger army with more chaff. All right. What does Arthur do? Okay, it looks like it's going to be a level 3 Tarantula from the unit drop. And it's going to be a Tarantula Steel Ball Arclight combination. Round 3, he also gets the Farseer. So a very strong push coming in from this side. And also a very fast-moving army. Alright, so here's the napalm, deleting 3 squads of crawlers almost instantly, but also getting a ton of damage onto these level 2 steel balls. We're getting close to the tower, but I feel like, ooh, that's a great tower, but I feel like this Sabertooth is just getting stuck on chaff a little bit too long. Is not able to hit any worthy target, finally returning his guns to this big tarantula, but now, with the tower debuff, I don't think it can get this tarantula, and I don't think this army can be stopped for this round. We'll see. We still have 1 saber left, so that is a little bit more damage, but we also have the Farseer just shelling these missiles onto this army here, and also the steel balls working. Awesome. So it looks like the battle ended up being a lot closer than I anticipated, but still, a win is a win for Arthur Mack. Additional deployment is being picked by Woot. And also by his opponent. We got a mobile beacon moving some of the Fire Badgers back. Specifically, 2 out of the 3 Fire Badgers back. Okay, so this is a good move because what it allows that top Fire Badgers to do is to create hopefully a ring of fire, capturing at least 2, if not 3 crawlers, and allowing these additional Fire Badgers from the back to create a second layer of napalm. So fully utilizing the power of the napalm here. Continue to bolster the side with no army to defend, even putting more units on the flank. So the goal here is just to quickly take over this tower and then start moving towards the weak side, or rather the strong side for your opponent. Alright, for Arthur, he realizes the threat of the napalm, so decided to mobile beacon his units straight down instead of getting tangled up by the fire. Adding Wasp to defend against the Phoenixes. Okay, now it becomes a race to the tower. And it looks like, oh, it's really hard to tell, but we do have Saber and multiple Phoenixes on this tower. Now, remember, these towers are kind of meaningless at this point because, yes, they're going to get tower, but the armies themselves aren't exactly engaging. So it's kind of a wasted tower for both sides. Now, the difference is, though, these steel balls are going to get to the second tower while the armies will be engaging, especially with this tarantula taking care of all these crawlers. And once that's done, the Farseer will start to putting the work onto these, hopefully these Phoenixes, and also the Sabertooth. Alright, we got a swarm of units coming from the south, and steel balls locking onto the big Sabertooth, and this is going to be a very critical round for Arthur. And this was what I was talking about, right? The army with a fast unit, you're allowed to take the tower and the second tower before engaging in that final epic fight. We got elite Mustangs being picked up by Woot. Mustangs are a very good unit because not only they have quite a respectable output, they're also very fast moving, which means if Woot decides to, let's say for one turn, want to defend against his weak side with the Mustangs, he can do that. But for now, though, it looks like Arthur is in a very commanding lead. His armies are really taking shape, and he's got the counter pretty much for all the major units here from Woot. All right, turning the Farseer to the side, anticipating some sort of defense. We're going to see the Fire Badger maneuver once again. Taking a loan here, leveling up the tower to level 3. These level 3 Mustangs are going to do a lot of work because you can't exactly defend against them with just a single arc light. If Arthur wants to defend against these Mustangs, he will have to put in a considerable amount of resource, which he does not have at the moment, because right now he wants his army to fight as a single unit on that side. So the Mustangs not only counters the majority of his chaff, but also takes care of the Wasp problem, allowing the Phoenixes to finally connect with the units that they should. Once again, we're getting the tower with no real consequences, and now the armies are clashing. Except this time it's very unfortunate. We actually had an arc light that was still alive during the tower debuff, and that did pull the entire army over. And now these level 3 Mustangs are putting in the work, and they're just mowing down this entire army here. Alright, the Tarantulas, they are standing firm, but I think in order to contest range Mustangs, you will need to have range on your own, as well as high explosive. Okay. We got a unit drop. We got Raiden, which might work for Woot, considering how many medium-sized units they are. And you can also just put additional Fire Badgers to create like an entire line of napalm every single round. And that's going to allow your Raiden to essentially clear all the remaining medium-sized units. But he did decide to go with the Wraith. Interesting. I think the Wraith is here to intercept maybe the crawlers and the wasps. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this Wraith is. There's going to be an underground here as a defensive measure from Woot, going up against these 2 squads of crawlers. Well, red player here is going to be 4 marksmen, perhaps recognizing the threat of both the Wraith and the Raiden. There's really no point for him to take the Raiden because Woot is going with elite Mustangs, and Raiden just simply does not have enough chaff clear capabilities. Alright, so this round of ground is going to be one with tempo from our red player. Did take drill, which means he is going to win pretty hard on this side unless these Mustangs do turn around, which means he is going to get the tower. And with the tower down, oh no, there's going to be a big problem, because if he can get the tower on this side with armies still remaining, namely these 2 tarantulas, that means the tarantula is just going to kill everything here, possibly even another tower. And he's unable to clear the tower on the other side either, so with the double tower debuff, this might actually be the end for Woot. It's very unfortunate because he was playing such a good game. Nope. Spoke too soon. There's 186 HP left. So we are going to move on to round 7. Now, if you were Woot, what would you do in this situation? I mean, at the beginning of the round, he was very adamant about just taking over on this side. But now, if you're looking at the board from like 4 rounds ago, this is a much even board. But the problem with the even board is that half of your army is not really fighting 80% of your opponent's army, right? Alright, so it's going to be a cheeky double Phoenix. And this is also a pro move because he knows that last round, you know, there was a crawler up here. And he suspected that maybe his opponent is not expecting the lightning to strike twice at the same place. So he's adding double Phoenix. The first one is just responsible for tanking that initial missile. And then the second one is there to do the damage. Now, why double Phoenix? Why not do a crawler Phoenix? Well, if you do crawler Phoenix, these crawlers will engage and of course will delay these Phoenixes. So he wants these crawlers to move out of the way, and then instead he wants to use his own Phoenixes to snipe both towers. You can also go with a Wasp and Phoenix, and a Wasp will kind of provide some sort of chaff and also a bit of chaff there. The Wraith is evacuating all the way to the other side. And right now, I feel like what Woot is trying to do is trying to utilize this level 3 tower as a big tank, and then use this level 3 Mustangs to kind of do his damage. Alright, the raid is moving over. We're going to get to the tower on the other side. The Phoenixes themselves also pick up Charge Shot, which means they can now deal with the Steel Balls and also the Tarantulas very easily. This flank it did actually happen, and they're now shooting at this raid. However, Woot does have a very sizable force, still with almost a full squad of elite Mustangs. But he is running triple tech Tarantulas. I did not see that. So this is a huge commitment into just 2 Tarantulas, but they are designed to get rid of these high-level Mustangs. Okay, so Woot is able to kind of crawl his way out of this with the oil on the ground, but can he actually win this game? Improved fire control system onto a Mustang, no doubt. Those are very good items. And for our red player, I'm not sure. Maybe portable shield on steel balls. That could be pretty good. But wait, what's this? We have a level 2 war factory with armor right in front of all of this action. And the jump drive. This is so classic of Woot. And this is not a response to his opponent over defending on this side. This is essentially a response to him not able to defend his side effectively. So he's trying to throw his opponent off with the jump drive. We also have jump drive from his opponent with those 2 Phoenixes in the back. So now they're coming in with some defense. A bunch of missiles coming down. Photon is being chosen, and everything is going to get extra buffed here. However, we are forming a very strong spearhead here with level 2 War Factory and level 3 Mustangs with item, 3 packs of Phoenixes, and a bunch of fire. And the only thing that can kill a level 2 War Factory with almost 500,000 HP are these steel balls, and there's only 1 squad of them because he sold the other one. Now, is it too late for him to pivot? I mean, he still is in a dominating lead in terms of HP, and he still have the level 3 steel balls. So they're getting to tower, and they're going to get tower. Ooh, this could be a very tense moment because the steel balls can very well latch onto the war factory here. One of them is being distracted, and the other one gets one-shotted by the war factory despite the photon. And this is just such a huge tank. And remember, because the armor also negates 120 of damage, so these wasps aren't really doing much. Wow, and that's a huge round, bringing both players just a tap away from losing. It's got to be Missile Strike, right, at this point? Because none of the others really make sense. So get the Missile Strike, get some cheeky strikes, maybe delete some Wasp, right? Ooh, the factory is gone. And it's back. And it's going to be on to the weak side. So we're going to help. The battery is going to help pushing into the tower. Instead of using them as the front line, as the first unit that everybody hits, where he expects to be countered pretty hard by either a steel ball or just range on a steel ball, to be honest. I mean, that's all you really need with level 3 steel balls and this much chaff in front of him. So he doesn't want that to happen. And instead, he's just going to put it on the other side and use these massive units as a endgame unit. Now taking range, which means they can pretty comfortably run into a melting point. And of course, temp range, temp speed, all necessary. So in the last 2 turns, Woot essentially shifted from having a multiple thousand supply worth of board on the strong side headbutting into his opponent, into completely evacuating, even bringing his high level Mustangs all the way to the other side, baiting his opponent to respond, and he did with a triple squad of level range and armored steel balls. I think armor is just there to prevent it from being one-shotted. Level 2 you're still being one-shotted, but at level 3 you actually can take 2 shots from this war factory. Oh, and we got a missile coming down here. The tower is going to fall. It is kind of decent here. But he did sell his big tarantula, which means he has virtually no chaff clear except his wasp. And his phoenix is just going to waltz in here. Charged phoenix, they are no joke. They can pop the tower in one shot. And just like that, Woot clawed his way out of a certain defeat with a level 2 war factory. What a game. Well, I hope you enjoyed this game, and if you want to see another exciting game, here is a video for you. And I hope to see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.